The New World Order, Bishop Grady Lane. Y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So the House Judiciary Committee is actually going to hold, it's actually being reported that they're going to hold a hearing regarding the rise of white nationalism, hate speech, and hate crimes in the U.S. The Southern Poverty Law Center actually reported that white nationalist groups have increased by 50% last year alone. So now we know that this is correlating with the empowerment of Donald Trump, for him to be in the executive branch, now running that show, that shit show that we call a presidency. But let's keep it real though, the rise of white nationalism and hate speech and hate crime, that sounds weird to black people, because this shit is, it's like, how far are we gonna go back? Are we just going back to last year or Trump's presidency? Are we gonna go back to the Reconstruction era, the Civil Rights era, the Emancipation Proclamation? Are we gonna, like, the slavery itself? Like, the fuck, man, it's kind of comical, but we'll see how this pans out, man. Hopefully something good comes from the Green War and graduate. The New World Order, Bishop Grady Lane. Y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. You know what I'm saying? It's sunny day out, you know what I mean? But I still gotta let y'all know what's happening out here. So the Huffington Post actually did an investigation and found that at least 7 members of the military are part of a group called Inside Evropa. EVROPA. I don't know if the V is supposed to be a fancy way of being like a U, like how we've done in hip hop before. But if it's Europa, you know, it'll make sense, because this group is actually a right-wing nationalist group. Now, it's not the first time that people who've been a part of the military have been a part of white nationalist groups. I mean, a lot of these motherfuckers end up at the other end of mass shootings. Let's keep it real, or have some sort of military background. So, you know, there should definitely be an investigation into that, a very thorough one. Like, let's cut it the fuck out. Now, this group in particular, though, they actually organized the Unite the Right rally in 2017 in Charlottesville, Virginia, that left 1 woman dead. So we'll see how this pans out. Green War and graduation. We'll do the Bishop Grady Lane. Y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Yeah, the weather look good behind me, but it ain't good everywhere. So I'm reporting that over in Mozambique, Africa, Mozambique, Malawi, and Zimbabwe actually experienced this from Thursday to, I believe, like Saturday or Sunday. They had a cyclone Idai, Idai. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but that's how you spell it. Actually came and killed hundreds. It even aid agencies are even saying that it wiped out 90% of the city of Beira, Beira, in Mozambique. So the president actually spoke out, and he said the death toll of Mozambique could actually top 1,000. They're still, you know, counting up all of the bodies or whatever, but you're talking about over 90% of a whole city that was actually wiped out. It actually had a population of 500,000 people. So, you know, it's serious damage over there. I know everybody think about New Zealand, but yo, let's pray for Africa, man, and those countries that are within, man. Green War and graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady Lane. Y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So the New York Times is actually reporting that in Saudi Arabia, that the government actually had what was called the Saudi Rapid Intervention Group, a group designed to essentially eliminate dissidents from the government, people that are actually want to go against the government. And and part of this program, there was a whole program. This included forcible repatriation, or, you know what I mean, getting kicked the fuck out the country. You know what I'm saying, kidnapping, torture, and you know, shit like that, gangster shit. Let's keep it real. That's what that is. So in general, this was is seen as being connected to the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, who was the who was a Washington Post, journalist that was from Saudi, and he actually got found chopped up in a Saudi consulate in Turkey. By the way, Turkey actually issued arrest warrants for the 20 people that were involved in that murder. You know what I'm saying? We'll see how that pans out. Green War and graduation. We'll do the Bishop Grady Lane. I know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So yesterday, actually, a United Nations Commission submitted a full report to the Human Rights Council at the UN, basically showing how Israel has been, you know, violating human rights of the Palestinian protesters at the Gaza Strip. Now, this goes, if y'all follow me, y'all know last week I reported on how there was a finding. This same commission that actually made these findings. So this is just marking them actually submitting the official report. But those findings showed that 189 people, Palestinians, have been killed by Israeli forces. Many of them unarmed, almost all of them with live ammunition. Now, these people come actually to the Gaza Strip and protest with no weapons, and they end up getting shot the fuck down. So while you're talking about 189 killed, you can imagine how many or more are injured if it's just shots flying. So green wall and graduation, man. We'll do the Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So over in Paris, France, and France in general, actually, they've been we entered the 4th month of protests by the Yellow Vests, a bunch of citizens that are pretty much fed up with the government. So you can call them anti-government protesters, and they're out there being known by wearing yellow vests. Now, police have been cracking down on them for all throughout the 4 months, and this past weekend they included there were 200 arrests at least. The French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe has actually said that the yellow vests are banned from certain neighborhoods, and the complete ban. He's actually banned completely any protest from groups that are considered violent or ultra radicalized. And so it's looking crazy over there, but they had enough. And let that be a lesson, and let other countries take note, because I'm sure they're not the only citizens that had enough with their government. Green wall and graduation. We'll go to Bishop Grady, let y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So, I got to report on this because it's very alarming, especially for us to be in this media world, this media-driven world, especially me as the editor-in-chief of Black Fox News. But there was a 4th radio host / journalist that was killed in Mexico this past Friday, by the name of Santiago Barroso. Now, this is ill because it seemed like they're just executing journalists who might be a little too investigative, honestly. I mean, this one in particular was doing a story on how immigrants were being smuggled along the border. Mind you, his home is actually on the is by the U.S.-Mexico border near Arizona. And gunmen came in and killed him. So they're looking at Mexican governments and authorities are looking into it. A British nonprofit by the name of Article 19 actually found that journalists in Mexico are executed with a 99% impunity rate. Crazy. Green wall and graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So yesterday, actually, the opposition leader of Venezuela, his name is Juan Guaido. And the U.S. has, publicly said that, we acknowledge him as the president instead of the current president, Nicolas Maduro. I've been keeping y'all up to date with this if y'all been following it, you feel me? Now, yesterday in the U.S., the U.S. actually let representatives of Guaido pretty much take over diplomatic establishments that were set aside for their ties with Venezuela. So there's a consulate in New York, and there were a couple of buildings in Washington, D.C., that pretty much these reps were allowed to come in there and, plant their stake, and the U.S. is officially, it just makes it more official, essentially, that, we acknowledge this other guy as the president, not y'all motherfuckers. And, they're still, crippling sanctions, not even letting that sicko money go back to Venezuela and all of that type of shit going on. So it's getting tense, man. Green wall and graduation. We'll do the Bishop Grady letting you know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So over in Nicaragua, that's in Central America for those who don't know, the president of Nicaragua, Daniel Ortega, had actually released on Friday 50 political prisoners. Now, that's not even the main headline of this shit. The main headline is that a bunch of people were protesting all throughout the weekend after he released these 50 prisoners because they want the release of all political prisoners. Now, the government has actually been it's apparently indiscriminately, jailing protesters, people who've had, not protesters, but political opponents, people who have protested, in some cases journalists and people who are public figures with opinions and all of that. These people have been jailed. Now, Daniel Ortega, the president, he actually had to come out his mouth and say that he's vowing to have open dialogue with political opposition, but for him to have to even say that out loud should let you know what time it is. Green wall and graduation. We'll do the Bishop Grady let you know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So, the House Judiciary Committee, the committee that's made up of House of Representative members, Congress members, basically get together and do investigations on people that are, very relevant in the U.S., whether politically or economically or whatever, and, pretty much conduct cases. They at times grill them while they on live television and all of that, whatever. Them motherfuckers have actually said that in the past, and I reported on this, that they were requesting documents from 81 different entities. We're talking about people and organizations that have dealt with Trump. So they wanted the Deutsche Banks, they wanted the Trump organization members, etc., all stemming from that Michael Cohen testimony from his former lawyer, basically spilling all the tea on that motherfucker. And they said that the House Judiciary Committee actually said that they received tens of thousands of documents. Congressman Gerald Nadler, who's actually on the committee, said that a few thousand came from Steve Bannon, who owns Breitbart. Green Wall graduate. Report of the New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. A new report by Reveal from the Center of Investigative Reporting actually found that the government, the United States government, has been operating this whole migrant crisis with the minors and all of that, whatever, have been putting these kids in secret shelters. We're talking about secret shelters, places that nobody knows about. They're not tracking these kids, and they're putting them in shelters and doing God knows what the fuck is going on. Now, this article revealed the locations of 5 in particular. They basically proved that there were 5 specifically, but we always know that there could be more, especially in them operating in secret. Now, this is some nefarious shit that we got going on, especially in the midst of this whole Catholic Church sex scandal, especially in the midst of all of this organ harvesting that's going on, especially in Israel and over here in the States and all of that, whatever. Look that up, them rabbis in New York and New Jersey, and that crackdown from 2011 and all of that. It's serious shit, man. Wake the fuck up. Green Wall and graduation. Report of the New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting you know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So I'm reporting on this because it's good that we hear some new ideas from different types of people. So Elizabeth Warren, the senator from Massachusetts, Democratic white lady, has actually said that in a town hall meeting that they hosted on CNN or whatever, she actually said that she wants to do away with the Electoral College. Now, I've been hearing that talk going on underground for years. You know what I mean? Possibly even a couple decades. But the reality is a lot of people feel like this shit is unfair, especially with a motherfucker like Trump getting in on the strength of the Electoral College or for close vote. Like, it's seeming real shady. And but let's keep it real though, because since this Black Fox News, we're gonna tell y'all the real. We know motherfuckers be rigging these computers anyway. You can check each and every election. This last one having to have dealt with Russians and all of that shit. So this is facts. Look it up. Check all my broadcasts too. Green Wall and graduation. We'll do the Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So, Veterans for Peace members Ken Mayers and Tarak Koff are actually being held and arrested and possibly facing up to 2 years in prison before actually even seeing a trial out in Ireland. So basically, they were protesting at Shannon Airport in Ireland, and because that is where U.S. military planes regularly fuel before they go on to the Middle East and do all of the bombing and the fuck shit that they've been doing. Now, these veterans, though, these are U.S. veterans or whatever, they protested this airport with signs that basically were calling for them to let Ireland remain neutral. Because just by virtue of you doing that, you're kind of like getting them on your team and acting like y'all in cahoots. So, that's what the protest was about. They're in Limerick prison, in case y'all want to send them a message or anything like that. But, God bless them and all the other activists that's protesting this war shit, because it's getting out of hand. Green Wall and gradually. New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting you know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So, yesterday, Donald Trump actually sat down with far-right president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, former Army captain who is considered to be like a militarized president. I mean, he's advocating for stronger police forcing down there. Is seen as the Trump of the tropics. So they both got together, of course, and did their whole far right, megalomaniac shit, where they was basically talking about how, talking shit against the fake news, even though motherfucking Trump kicks out more fake news than the National Enquirer, you know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, they also talked about how they were gonna be tough on the sanctions against Venezuela, and Trump actually said that Brazil will now be a top non-NATO ally, which means that they would actually have, it would increase the aid, the military aid that the U.S. would give them. So we'll see how this pans out. Green War and graduation. Report of the New World Order, Bishop Grady laying over the fuck going on. So actually, yesterday in the Supreme Court, they actually ruled 5-4 against immigrant rights, where basically immigrants with past criminal records can now be detained indefinitely. Yeah, you heard that right. So you got people like that. A lot of times when they're talking about the criminalization of these immigrants that are crossing the border, a lot of them, most of them, their crimes are exactly that, trying to illegally cross the border. So that whole situation about it being, criminals coming in and saying they have the statistics to prove it, is all bullshit. Like, and you can look it up. Like, seriously, like, look up the government data. Don't just look up anybody's data. Look up, they'll tell you. Now, that obviously makes this situation seem very unconstitutional, and everybody should be alone. So everybody in the hip-hop community, this would mean that somebody like 21 Savage could be jailed indefinitely. So shit is real. Green War graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady laying under what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So under the Trump administration, they actually have a policy that calling for asylum seekers who are met at the border by immigration officers are actually sent back to Mexico. They have to wait in Mexico for the legal proceedings to take place in order for them to be granted asylum into the United States. Now, this has of course caused a lot of backup. They say that since late January, there's actually been 240 people that have been sent back to Mexico and forced to wait there for their proceedings. Now, I'm bringing all this up because yesterday, some of the first people were actually allowed back into the country to have these hearings since these policies are taking place. So, this is so asinine that the lawyers actually have to, make a case and plead for the government to actually allow them to remain in the country while they're having their court hearings. Like, that's how real shit is. And they're citing the dangers of them staying over in Mexico. So that's what's happening, man. Green War and graduation.